And I was muted. Holy, wow. One bad thing after another. I was literally just saying technical problems today. I got started, and when I went to hit the theme song to kick in my folksy music, I literally like closed the window and everything shut down. So I had to restore that. And then I came back and told all of you that I had to do this thing, and my mic was muted. And of course, I'm looking at the camera and not the comments right now, so I didn't see any of those comments. So we're off to a really good start. We were 20 something minutes late on Four Horsemen o'clock today, and I've made a shambles out of the start of Mythic Conversations, but that means there's nowhere to go but up, right? So we're going to have a great night tonight. I'm super, super excited. Yeah, Joe, wait till next week. We'll have all kinds of fun times. Welcome to Mythic Conversations, your Wednesday night destination for all things Legions. I am your host, Jeremy Girard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer who also has the distinct privilege of being the digital marketing manager for Four Horsemen Studios, which means all the content that you see at sourcehorseman.com is content I help to bring you. If you want to check out more of my work, including some of the stuff we're going to show tonight, you can do that on Instagram at Mythic Customs, all one word. I am very excited for tonight. A number of requests have come in over the past few weeks about Mythic Legions Legion Builder reinforcements, specifically people saying, hey, are you going to do a show where you talk about custom options and kit bashes and things like that? I said, yes, absolutely, I want to do that. Thankfully, my good friend Joe made sure that I had my Legion builders in hand for tonight, so I could do that finally on this week's show. And that's what we're going to do. This weekend, I opened up some Legion builders. I've got some thoughts about the line itself or about the wave itself that I want to share. But then I spent a few hours literally just popping and swapping, putting some combinations together. Some of the combinations are things that you've seen other people doing as well, but it's okay. I wanted to share those as well tonight. Show you some of the things I did. I am also going to show you some easy customs that I put together. And then some complex customs too, more complex at least. I want to show the whole kind of gamut. So anyone who's watching, whether your comfort level is just popping and swapping, whether you want to take it up a little bit more and do some simple paint applications to do some customization, or whether you want to go full bore, hopefully something tonight I will show will inspire you to do something on your own. Very, very cool. Well, thank you very much, Eduardo, saying that this is the best part of your Wednesdays. That makes me very, very happy to hear. Curtis saying, even muted, I'd watch for a couple hours. It's like the silent episode, right? What did I watch recently that had a silent episode in it? I watched a show recently that had a whole, Only Murders in the Building. That was an awesome show. And there's one whole episode that's largely silent. That show was a delight, let me tell you. Let's see. That beautiful voice. Excellent. Okay, here we go. Got the volume. What do I think of Sir Girard, Jay? Well, I mean, I designed him, so I'm pretty partial to him. The Sir Girard shipping now. I mean, a lot of people are getting Sir Girard for the first time. Remember, he came out back at Legions Con. I actually had it in hand prior to that. So I've been living with Sir Girard for a little bit longer than that, but obviously I'm rather fond of the figure. And it's one of the figures we're going to look at tonight as well, because Sir Girard, while he's not a reinforcement, he shipped with the reinforcements. So I'm going to include him in my popping and swapping wave here. LBC popping and swapping shirt. I like that. I like it. Okay, really quick news items, things going on. Red Krampus pre-order, that is still going on. That goes on until I believe it's like March 6th. So you've got just over a month to get those pre-orders in. Like I said last week, that's available at the Four Horsemen retailers. And I do have a link for that. If you go here, sourcehorseman.com/retailers, that'll show you a list of all the retailers, all the approved retailers. You can pre-order Red Krampus from them. It's due to be in stock by Christmas time this year. So very, very cool there. Other stuff going on, my good friends at Wolf King Customs, they will have a sale that starts this coming Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you haven't done so already, check out this week's Legions Lounge. Super, super fun conversation. Those guys had on Emil Wickman from Sweden, as well as Lord Stephen Bashadi, and they talked about their collaboration. They talked about God's Fire, the Mud Thumps. They talked about Stephen's new kind of project that he's working on, Tribal Lands. A lot of really, really fun stuff that they presented. A lot of cool new reveals, a lot of which will be available from Wolf King Customs this coming Saturday. My stuff, actually, if you've seen the flying foxes that I showed a while back, those will be available for the first time. The first gnome kits will also be available. All of the mouse kits will be available as well, including the hooded mouse. We've never actually sold the hooded mouse, so that will be available for the first time. A big push at Wolf King Customs this weekend with this sale is actually parts that work with reinforcements. So, all the God's Fire stuff, those really work well with Templar Knights. Those will all be available. A lot of my critters, like the Kitsune Foxes, the mouse kits, because those goes with the Goblins. All of that will be available. So that's wolfkingcustoms.com this coming Saturday. Sale runs for 1 week. Stephen and Emil did say incorrectly on Legions Lounge there will be no painted parts. That is untrue. There will be some painted parts. I will be painting a handful of mouse sets, only a few. So if you want painted, there's literally only a couple that are going to be offered. Additionally, Drew Grubbs is going to paint the gnome sets, and he's going to paint some halfling sets, and Melissa Somerville is going to paint the flying foxes. So, I mean, literally, Wolf King bringing out the big guns. Drew and Melissa are two of my favorite painters. They're going to do some amazing work. As always, painted is super limited. So if you want painted pieces, get in there early. That's what's going on. Let's turn to the topic at hand. This wave, I can tell you, and I've got an orc here that's not customized. I just hadn't popped around yet. I love them. I love them. I've obviously been opening Mythic Legions figures since the very beginning. I can absolutely tell you some waves have been better than others, from a quality standpoint. The Covenant of Shadow wave is notorious for having slightly loose hips. I have plenty of them on display. They don't fall over. They're fine. But that was a wave that certainly had some loose hips problems here and there. Not in every figure, but some. There were other figures over time that I can tell you were hard to pull apart. Like they didn't, it felt like normal action figures. Like they weren't meant to be pulled apart. Over time, it seems like the factory is getting consistently better producing these figures. The reinforcements wave, I have to say, are probably my favorite ones they've done. Everything about them feels great. They have perfect movement, perfect tightness. Every pose I hit, they felt great, but they popped apart so incredibly easy. So bear with me. I know a lot of people check out my show and they're new to the Mythic Legions community. The amount of people that message me through Instagram, that make comments on my posts here, my videos, and say that I helped introduce them to Mythic Legions is truly awesome and humbling. I'm thrilled that I'm able to do that. As part of that, being kind of an emissary for the brand, I do like to speak to them. So sometimes I will explain things that veterans may know. Hopefully, you're okay with me doing that. What we're going to be talking about tonight is a lot of popping and swapping. So Mythic Legions figures are meant to be broken apart. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're pretty darn awesome as is. You display them like this and they're pretty cool. But if you want to break them apart and mix and match pieces, you can totally do that. And it's super easy to do so. Some parts are easier to remove than others. A lot of figures come with multiple heads. So as you'd probably expect, the heads come off super easy. And you can take another head Here's Mr. Girard. And oh, he's got his neck post in there. Let me pull that out. So, you can just take that head, pop that right on there. You've got a different look. But it's not only heads. The arms, just by pulling those arms out. Oh, so I broke the bottom. I didn't break anything. It just, the bottom part came off. That's a removable piece. The arm comes off. Pull this arm out. You can pull the waist apart. All these pieces come off. The feet come off. You can drop things. These things are super modular. So that's a huge part of what we're going to talk about today. Now, if you are new to this, you've got some reinforcements, and you are going to do some of the pop and swaps that I'm going to do tonight, one thing I would caution you is if you ever feel like something is stressing, the plastic is stressing as you try to get it apart, don't continue. Stop right there. Apply some heat. Okay. Get a blow dryer, like a hair dryer. Hit that area with some hot air for 30 seconds. It'll soften the plastic, make it much easier. Or you can use hot water. The hot water trick I always use, I get a mug that I only use for action figures because, let's be honest, these are plastic things that you're going to put in really hot water. You probably don't want to be sucking down some coffee out of that same cup a few hours later. I have a cup I use specifically for this. I put some water in it, put it in the microwave for 2.5 minutes, just the water. Don't put the figure in the microwave. That's a bad call. Once that water comes out, put the figure in there, let it soak for, again, 20, 30 seconds, pull it out. Be careful. Obviously, there's crevices. Water can get in there. You don't want to burn yourself. I put like a little towel down on my counter, put the figure down on the towel. The parts are now also very, very loose and softened. You can pull them apart. So just don't stress. You feel something's not coming apart, don't force it. Put some heat on it, get it apart. That was much better. Jay saying hot water is good, putting in a Ziploc bag. Yeah, you can put it in a Ziploc bag. I never do so. The only time I've ever put any figure in a Ziploc bag is when I got the ogres and they had the fur pieces on them and I didn't want to dip them right in the water. I did the Ziploc bag trick for that. Other than that, I just put the figures right in the water. I will say this, if you are using parts that are custom painted, I never use hot water on those. I always use hot air on those. I find it to be less destructive. Awesome. So I'm just going to go back and check out some of the comments here. Someone's saying nice cosmic stuff today. Yeah, so if you checked out earlier today on Four Horsemen O'Clock, Chris and I showed some of the fine cuts from the upcoming Cosmic Legions wave. McFly saying soft goods cloth and cloak. Yeah, I actually have that right here. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. Coming down more. Swapped out the Black Knight armor with the Orc. Yeah, there's so many possibilities here. Whenever I pull them apart like that. Okay. I sold all my collections for Cosmic Legions. There we go. Okay. Excellent. So, love the figures, love the feel of them. Some things I noticed that I'm really excited about as well. Skeleton Legion Builder. So, Skeleton Legion Builder is the third time he's been available. He was available in Mythic Legions 1.0. The first Kickstarter wave. He was available as an all-star, and now he's available as a reinforcement. The difference between the first release and the all-star is the neck. So if you've ever gotten a Skeleton Legion Builder with a fully painted bone neck, that figure came from the very first wave. And it's because the Legion Builder, they did not paint the neck bone color. They painted it the same gunmetal color of the armor itself. So we had a skeletal neck that was the color of the armor as opposed to bone. Never really loved that. Turns out that might have just been another factory error that they got through, because this wave here, the skeleton once again has the fully painted neck, which I'm super excited about. Really small thing, but I was excited to see that. Another change this time is on the Black Knight Legion builder. I did see some people say that the Black Knight is not as shiny this time. I compared it to one of the previous releases from Coliseum. They look about the same to me. I didn't notice any discernible difference in the amount of shine. What is different is my friend Patrick Boyle. I saw him post this for the first time. I don't know if he was truly first. He's the first one I saw mention it, that the bucket helmet for the Black Knight Legion builder has the spike with it, where previously the Black Knight Legion builder came with the two heads, the bucket helmet and like the traditional knight helmet, and it came with the red plume, but it did not have that little spike. I like that option. I actually don't care for the plume helmet attachment. I prefer the spike. So getting the spike in that figure as well, I think is a really cool addition. Those are two things that I noticed. Barbarian's been released. This is his fourth time. Mythic Legions 1, he was in the first series of All-Stars. If you know the story, in Advent of Decay, the factory accidentally, instead of shipping the female barbarian, they actually shipped to the studio more of the male big barbarian kit, which was a happy little accident. And then now we get him in reinforcements. He's had different skin tones throughout time. The first ones that ever came out, in my opinion, had the lightest skin tone. The barbarian in this reinforcements wave looks closest, in my opinion, to that very first release, that lighter skin tone. What we got for All-Stars had a much darker skin tone. If you've ever seen them side by side, unfortunately, mine are all so broken apart. I don't actually have a complete All-Stars Barbarian intact anymore. He's been broken apart in pieces everywhere. But they are noticeably different. So that is another thing I noticed for this particular reinforcements wave. Other than that, everything else looked pretty consistent to me. Nothing else stood out to me as being an obvious, hey, this is a change, either back to an original or something new like what we got with the Black Knight. Okay, let's see. Checking out some comments again. Stephen says, Lord Stephen is here. Nice to have you here, Lord. I'm a blow dryer guy. Yeah, I prefer the water, but go ahead, make fun of the way I said water. Water. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about some of these customs. Does the red plume come out of the Black Knight helmet? Yeah, absolutely. I think I have it here. I genuinely have no idea where that helmet went. I had it around here. But yes, the plume is totally removable. It's like any of the helmet attachments, so it just pops right out. So you can pull that plume out. A lot of people put it on the Templar. They like it on the Templar Knight, actually. Okay, so what I wanted to do was take these figures and combine them in different ways, because if you're just getting started with this, that's a really fun thing you can do, especially if you got a number of reinforcements, is starting to combine figures. So the first two figures that I messed with and I combined were Sir Girard and the Templar Knight. Loved doing that, because what I really did was, if you look at the upcoming Dark Templar from the Deluxe Legion Builders wave, it's essentially the Templar build, but obviously the different colors. But what they did was they swapped out the waist armor and the shoulder armor for the ones that came with the red shield soldier. Now, those same shoulder and waist pieces are the ones that I selected to use on Sir Girard, because they're new and they're awesome. I really like the way they look. I tried to swap those onto a Templar in that super minor change I thought looked really, really cool. Let me bring that up right now, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is super, super simple. This is not complex stuff. So here's a couple photos of my Templar Knights. Really simple change here. Again, all I did is the shoulder armor that you see, that is the Sir Girard shoulder armor, and it is remarkably close in color to the armor color of the Templar Knight. So I did not swap in the Sir Girard arms or anything on that here. Everything on this figure, with the exception of those shoulder pieces and that waist armor, those are from Sir Girard. Those two things are Sir Girard. Everything else is the Templar Knight. Over to the right, you see that I slapped a skeleton head on it because that's a real easy change you can do as well. And that's another thing that you can do with these. So when you're thinking about swapping these, one of the easiest things you can do, and I'm going to take this off screen for just a moment. One of the easiest things that you can do is look at the different characters you've got. So you've got a couple knights, you've got the orc, you've got the skeleton, you've got the barbarian. So right there, you've got 4 different types of limbs. So think about that. You've got fully armored limbs on both the Templar and on Sir Girard. You've got fully orc green limbs on the Orc Legion builder, fully bare, fleshy, like barbarian limbs, like a Caucasian style limbs on the barbarian. And then you have the skeletal limbs on the skeleton. So one of the easiest things you can do, let's talk about Templars. If you take a Templar, and this is a custom I've talked about before that's super easy to do, but super effective, take those bone pieces off a skeleton, the upper arms, the upper legs, take a Templar and swap out the upper arms and upper legs on that figure. You will end up with a skeleton Templar. Super, super cool. So what I was just showing here was, a little bit an easier swap than that. This is just putting the skeleton head on the Templar body. But if I swapped out the arms and legs, I would get full skeleton Templars. Now, if you do that, you could keep them nice and clean, or you can dirty them up. I'm going to show some photos of some old customs that I did years and years ago, but they'll show exactly what I mean here. Let me bring these up. Got a lot of photos here, so you have to bear with me. Here we go. So these are 4 different undead Templars that I've done over the years, and I'll zoom in on these a little bit so you can see them here. I'll start right here. This one here, this is literally what I'm telling you. This is taking a Templar body. All that I did was I swapped in the skeleton arms and legs, and then I dirtied that thing up. I cut one of the armor pieces on the shoulder. I took some slices out of the tunic piece here, did some brown dry brushing to really dirty it up. I like the way it looks with that helmet. This figure down here is actually the same figure, but that's just with the skeleton head. And I painted a little red cross on his face because I thought that was a lot of fun as well. But this is not a difficult custom to do. This is largely a pop and swap with some brown dry brushing and a little bit of work with an X-Acto knife. Super low hanging fruit, super easy to do. Again, you don't have to go this far. If you just want to make a skeleton knight and you don't want to, do all this stuff, you can totally accomplish that. The others here are just other examples. That's using the Brother Mandibulus head on a similar type of Templar build. I modified the head a little bit to cut off the horns on the Brother Mandibulus. And then up here, I have my zombie Templar that uses the skeleton arms and legs, but instead of the skeleton head, it uses a Hagnon head that I fully painted to match. So these are 4 examples of what you can do by swapping in skeleton limbs. Super, super easy. Same principle. You can do this with the barbarian limbs. You can do this with the orc limbs. So if you want to make an orc Templar, literally put on the green upper arms, the green upper legs, the orc head, you've got an orc Templar. Same thing if you want to make like a Templar brute, right? So say you're a Templar squad, you've got all of these Templar soldiers and you want to have one that's kind of like the muscle. I did this years ago where I used the bare upper arms and upper legs and I gave him like a warhammer and he was like a big Templar brute type character. Super fun, super easy to do. So that's one of the first things that you can do. And I'm talking Templar. You can do this with any of these figures. If you want to put the skeleton on, a different knight figure, and this will work with any of them, by the way. I mean, you get Sir Owain, you can make Sir Owain into a skeleton, and you can go vice versa too. People have taken Pixis and they put, like barbarian limbs on Pixis to make Pixis a living version. they take bones and they put them on Vetus to make Vetus an undead version of that character. The Skeleton Legion Builder allows you to do that super, super easy. So that's one of the really easy type customs that I think that you can do with this. Stephen, that particular skeleton crossface is not yours. I believe the one I just showed went to Richard Jones, but I did do a second one that you have. So you do have that one. Checking out here. The tilt on that bucket helmet skeleton is perfect. Yeah, I like that shot. That was a fun one. Very cool. Question: does the 1.0 belt work on 2.0? Love that belt. So 1.0 belts and 2.0 belts are there's slightly different in size. I like to use the 2.0 belts around the waist of a 1.0 figure because it's a little tighter. And the sword I find fits a little better if you want to put a weapon in there than using the 1.0 belt. It sags a little bit. You're not going to get a 2.0 belt really easily, like around the shoulders of a 1.0 figure. And if you use a big 1.0 belt on a 2.0 figure, it's really floppy. It's really, really big. So, I mean, you might find use for them. They might be able to work. Depends what you want to do. Yeah, so someone recently cut down the legs of a skeleton to make a skeleton dwarf. I have seen that, Greg, as well. Slightly more involved custom. I don't know if they articulated that cut, if they just cut it and glued it, which would be fine because, I mean, you're cutting something that's not articulated. So if you make it not articulated, that's fine as well. So that's an easy custom. So the first thing I did, like I said, Templar Knight. I got to tell you, I love the Templar Knight with those pieces of armor on it. Like, I look at that and I'm like, I want to redo all of my Templars with those armor pieces. I just think it looks so, so good like that. So doing that, I obviously now had a Sir Girard figure where I wanted to use those parts, right? So one of the things I thought would be really, really fun, and I saw Dorklayer do this. He called it Black Girard, where what he did was he took a Sir Girard, tunic pieces and head, and he put it on a Black Knight Legion builder. That was cool, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. Very similar build, but I used the Black Knight Legion builder head. So I created what I call the Black Templar. And if you looked at my Instagram today and on the Cabal, you saw me post this. So let me bring this up here. So these were the first ones that I did, the Black Templar, when I first created this. Super, super easy, but I love the way this looks. This is immediately become, I did a lot of these customs, by the way, I did specifically for the purpose of the show. This has become a fixture in my collection now. This is now on display. All this is a Black Knight Legion builder, arms, legs, armor, and head with the tunic piece, the torso, and the loin piece from a Sir Girard and the shield from Sir Girard. I really like this because I felt like it made a really cool contrast to the actual Templar Knight. Curtis says this looks like Darth Vader, reminds him of Darth Vader. I didn't see it at first. Now I totally see it. Let me show this picture. I like this one here. So this shows both of them together. That contrast between these two, the way the regular Templar and the Black Templar look, I think is phenomenal. I love the Dark Templars that are coming out. Obviously, if you checked out recently on Source Horseman, we wrote an article about historical influences in the line. The Dark Templar actually looks like a historical knight called the Hospitaliers. I'm probably saying that incorrectly. They were an order of knights that were charged with creating hospitals, actually. We took some liberties with that, obviously, and made them a mercenary gang. But they don't look like necessarily evil Templars to me. This character, the Black Templar, to me looks like a much more evil type character, which I think is cool because it provides that contrast to the Templar Knights. So I really, really love that. And there's other things that you can do with this as well. I'm going to bring up some other things that I did here. Black Templar 2. So this is using that same build with a couple of different head options, including a few custom ones. So all the way over to the left, that's the Holy Knight head. I painted that up recently to put it on a Black Knight Legion Builder body. I actually did a paint match video here on my channel. I wanted to slap that on the figure to see how that looks. I thought that was super cool. All the way to the right, that's the vampire helmet that we sell at Legion Shop. Same thing. I wanted to see how that would look. Again, I thought that looked really cool. Both of those actually will be back up at Legion Shop soon, both of those variations. But then the one in the middle is just a skeleton. That is literally just a skeleton head on top of that body. I think that all of these look really, really cool. Like this is a build that I feel like no matter what head you put on it, it's going to look pretty cool. Now, as much as I like this, I did this over the weekend, and then I got a message through Facebook from someone who, quite frankly, I've never dealt with before. A gentleman named Eric Harker. So he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I do custom soft goods, and I created something that I think is really cool for Sir Girard. I'd love to send it to you." And I was like, "Awesome, that's great." So he sent it to me, and I felt really, really cool and special until I saw Dorklair got one as well. And Dorklair beat me to posting it. And I was like, maybe I'm not that special. But I still want to say thank you so much to Eric Harker for sending me this super cool set. Now, it's a cape and loin set that he created, these custom soft goods. And let me bring this up here. These are the photos that I shared today. So this is actually how this figure is going to be displayed in my collection. Really cool wired pieces. It's got a wired loin piece that goes, right over the ball peg in the middle. If you want to have some more dynamic type looks for that loin piece, or you want to put them on a horse, this absolutely will allow you to do that. And that super cool cape. The holes, that way they line up to allow the pauldrons to go in, are perfectly done. Really, really dig this custom. And I actually have it right here. It's great. It's super, super cool. Absolutely wonderful. If you're interested in this, Harker Customs, it's on Instagram. If you actually look at my Instagram post, I tagged them in the Instagram post. That'll probably be the best way for you to reach them. So Black Templar, whether you get the cloak or not, super easy, low-hanging fruit custom that you can do. I don't have pictures of this, but I will show you this in the process of doing these mixes and matches, right? When I have one coming up that I'm going to show in a little bit where I used the Sir Girard armor with a Templar Knight, because what I want to do, the Sir Girard armor has red accents on, the shoulders and on the legs. So I wanted to use that armor with a Templar for a custom. When I did that, I ended up with the Templar limbs and the Sir Girard torso, which kind of creates this here. Now, I don't love this because I think that the Sir Girard build is cooler. I don't love this as much, but I point this out because this is a great base if you want to paint the torso and the loin. If you want more of a knight, like a standard type knight, it doesn't have to be black color. The armor color, the silver armor color of the Templar is such a nice neutral color that you could literally paint those any color. You could paint them green. You could paint them red. You could paint them orange, yellow. Any color will work for that. So if you end up with these extra pieces, this is a really cool thing that you can do. A little bit of paint, you can make this a generic knight, slap a custom head on there, or even just slap, the regular Templar head on there. Very cool build that you can do there. Sir Girard is action figure that keeps giving Black Templars equals canon. Yeah, I love the Black Templar. I think that looks really, really cool. Okay, so let's see what I'm going to do next here. So one of the other builds that I like to do is let me find it here. Okay, so a little something for my dwarf lovers here. The Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder, mixing and matching that with pieces from the Barbarian set, I think is super, super makes sense to do. Using the and you can see the photo on the left there. That takes the Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder, the legs and the lower gauntlet pieces and the feet. I used the loin piece and the waist armor from the Barbarian kit. I obviously used the head from the Barbarian kit. This is one that I also swapped in some bare hands from the bare hands pack. And then you can see the picture on the right is almost the same build. Actually, it uses just the Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder loin piece where I put a custom head on it. So if you want to mix and match, this is a great way to do it. I've always loved that particular head, that Barbarian head on this figure body. And I'm going to give you a little hint here. So let me take this off screen for a minute. A lot of people that have been customizing for a while know this, but for those who are not aware, let me just pull this apart really quick. A few things I like to do here. Number one, you couldn't see it underneath that dwarf body, but when you end up opening a lot of these, if you end up with extra belts, just using those belts in interesting crisscross patterns makes a totally different look. Those belts cover up so much of that torso armor that you really don't even see that torso. We've seen that torso so many times, but just doing that with belts, which is put one on the left side, put one on the right, put one on the left, put one on the right. That crisscross pattern, it looks absolutely so good. And you can even vary it up. If you put everything really close together, like if you put all of the bands really, really close, it looks one way. If you spread them out, it looks a different way. Super easy little custom right there. Now, one thing I wanted to say, if you get this head, this Barbarian head, you may not know this. This is two different pieces, and I don't mean because of the head attachments. This beard is a separate piece that's glued into that face mask. It's not super easy to pull out, but with a little bit of heat and determination, you can get that out, okay? If you want to change up this look, if you want to paint this beard, I've seen some people try to paint this head while the beard is attached. You're making a lot of work for yourself, okay? You're going to end up all those edges around the face mask. You're not going to get all of the beard, or you're going to hit the mask itself and have to touch that up. Pull the beard out. If you pop that beard out, you can paint that. It's all one piece. You can paint that any color you want, glue it right back into the helmet, and then you have your figure if you want to change up the beard color. Love doing that. So super easy dwarf. Let me bring that back up. Super easy dwarf custom that you can do here. That's my one criticism about the Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder. I love that figure. I think it's one of the best base figures to use for customizing. That dwarf head, I wish it would have come with a second dwarf head that had the beard, only because that feels more dwarfish to me. But small complaint, not really a complaint at all, because it's still very, very cool. And it's funny I say that because the Bronze Dwarf in my collection is actually displayed with the normal head. So I say I wish it came with a second head, but I like the first one enough to display it as is. So easy dwarf custom there. Now let's stick with that Bronze Dwarf. What else can you do with that Bronze Dwarf? Here's another idea. Yeah, the hand packs are awesome. The hand packs totally mix things up. Give me a moment. Got to find where it is. Got a lot of pictures loaded here. Here we go. So taking that same Bronze Dwarf, what you can do is you can use some of those orc parts. And I didn't do a lot of customs with the Goblin because the Goblin is a 2.0 build, which doesn't really work with the 1.0 pieces mostly. So I fudged this a little bit. That head is just kind of hanging on there by gravity. What you will realize if you try to make this combination is obviously the peg underneath that 2.0 Goblin head does not fit the neck peg of the Bronze Dwarf. Now, this head was used on the Gonks figure, and the Gonks figure is essentially a dwarf body. If you don't have gonks, what you may not realize is they have a whole different neck peg on the gonks figure. It is literally the only currently available figure that has that neck peg. What it is it's got a 2.0 like top piece for the head, but a 1.0 bottom piece for the neck. It's an easy fix. If you want to do this, literally a little bit of blue tack will just rest it on the peg and you'll be fine. Or if you really want it to pop on, a little bit of dremeling to dremel out that head, and you'll be able to widen the hole of the head to pop it on. But here's two different examples of what you can do. One of them on the right is really just taking that bronze dwarf. I swapped in the shoulder armor, the waist armor, and the loin piece from a barbarian. I gave him Sir Girard swords, and I popped that goblin head on him. On the left, I mixed that one up a little bit by putting the goblin arms on him. Now, I could go even further. I could put the goblin hands from the goblin hand pack on here. I could put the goblin feet, or I should say the orc feet, from that part, that pack as well, and that would mix it up. But I like the way that looks. This is a super easy custom to do. You can make your little, call them a dwarker if you want. You know, they're a dwarf orc, or you know, they're a burly goblin. Whatever works for you. I think that this is another fun little custom that you can do. Another little thing that people may not realize, I do have. I keep losing stuff. I felt like I had a goblin head around here earlier. I swear I had a goblin head. Oh, I do. Here it is. So here's a fun thing that you can do. So say that you want to mix it up a little bit. Say that you've got this helmet. So this is the Bronze Dwarf Legion Builder helmet, right? And it's got these ear attachments. It's got these helmet attachments that you can put in. So one fun thing that a lot of people don't know is if you get this Goblin Legion Builder, and this, I had a little bit of pain of this. I actually shot a video earlier today about customizing goblins, and that's one of the things I painted on the video. One of the things you may not realize is this Goblin Legion Builder head, those ears, they're just glued in, okay? So if you pull those ears, they literally, and I'm not gonna be able to pull it off live on the ear, watch, it'll be stuck in there too much. So I can't get them off live on the air, but trust me when I tell you, they are glued in. This is the first time I've tried it with the reinforcements. They were a lot easier to pull off on the previous figures. So I will tell you, they are glued in. I'm having a hard time getting them off, but if you can get those ears off, a little dab of glue and you can fit them right in. You might have to trim them a little bit right into the side ports of any helmet, and it makes a fun little goblin-like looking. It almost looks like a character, like a goblin. Pop the helmet on and their ears are popping out, almost like Grogu style. Super, super fun. So that's another little trick you can mess around with as well. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Let me go to the comments for a minute. Goodness, it's already 8:14. Time is flying. So Greg's saying, Jeremy, you showed off the cool use of those belts just to make a unique leather torso. Has anyone thought of offering a belt set just to enable that option for people that don't own enough? I'll be honest with you, they actually have talked at the studio about doing like a 10-pack of belts or whatever. I don't know that it's going to happen, but they certainly have discussed it. You do end up with a lot of extra belts after a while, I will tell you that. Do the goblin heads fit on orc bodies? Not as is. There's literally a pile of parts on the side of me over here. So this is an orc body. The head does not fit as is. Now, if I just pop it there, I mean, that's how it looks. So it looks totally cool. But if I flip it over, what a night. Everything I'm doing is, I'm like, oh, it's going to fall off. So apparently, just by popping it on, just the tension is enough to hold it in place. It is not popped on super, super strong, but apparently enough that that's not a problem. So to answer your question, apparently, yeah, the orc head, the goblin head does kind of fit on the orc body. Let me check here. Okay. Fabian's finest freaks. Well, I'm happy. Hope you're feeling better, my friend. Yeah, Curtis saying I have 1 million belts. There was a point where I wanted more belts, and then I realized that the more you get, you end up, because there will be some figures you just won't use them for. Okay, what else do we got here? Let's see. What do I want to show next? See what I've got. All right, so as I was popping and swapping, one of the things I did come up with, I did end up with, was a lot of extra armor parts. So I said, you know what? Let me make a fully armored orc figure. And then I realized that a fully armored anything figure looks kind of cool. So this ended up being a build after I pulled off the orc parts to mess around with, to do that dwarf orc or that dwarf. I had, the torso, I had the lower arms and legs. I had the lower arms and legs from a Sir Girard that I had messed around with, because remember, I had used the parts to make the Black Templar. So I slapped all of that together. I used the waist piece from a Barbarian, and I created that fully armored orc that you see over there on the left. Then, just to mess around and see how other looks would look, I threw that helmet on it for the right to create more of just like a dark, almost like a Ravager Barbarian type character. Again, almost any head you put on this will look cool. This is just a mixed up match of all these different armor parts. So as you're combining these pieces, you will absolutely get to the point where you have a bunch of leftovers, but still you can do something super cool like that. You can also do this. Same exact build, different heads. Couple skeletons here. So just popping those skeleton heads on, we've got the Sir Girard head on the left. We've got the Skeleton Legion Builder head on the right. That looks super cool. I should also mention, before the reinforcements wave went for sale, when Joe and I were teasing the inclusion of Sir Girard, I popped one of those Skeleton Legion Builder heads on a Sir Girard. That alone looks super cool. It almost looks like the Sir Girard, because he's got the helmet and the headgear on. It almost looks like if he took that off, what his skeleton underneath the head would look like. So you can do that as well. But again, super, super easy customs to do here. Our dwarf torso's normal size, absolutely, McFly. All the dwarf parts, the only parts that are different on a dwarf, I can show you right here, is the legs. Okay, so this is a set of orc legs, 1.0 legs, the knight legs, everything in the exact same size. This is a set of dwarf legs. That is right there where the dramatic size difference between those two figures are located. They're the exact same pelvis. They're the exact same feet. Okay, the ankle pegs, the feet, exactly the same size. What is different is the size of that upper leg and that lower leg. That is what is totally different in the dwarves. The only other difference in the dwarves, their arms are the same size, their torsos are the same size, their neck pegs are different. Their neck pegs, because the dwarves have the long beards, the neck pegs kind of go forward a little bit. Those are a little bit different. The gauntlets. So the gauntlets in hand are a little bit smaller than what you would find on like the knight figure or the orc figure with that big spiky armor. But really the biggest difference is the legs, but they're all totally compatible. Like I could literally take the lower legs of the dwarf and put it on the upper legs of an orc, and what you would get is a height size that's somewhere between like an orc or a knight and a dwarf. It would be this weird in-between stage. So you can play around with those. Those are all considered 1.0 parts, all totally interchangeable. Okay, what do we got next here? Oh, I don't have a picture of this, but I'll show this. I said I didn't do much with the Goblin. If you've got a Goblin Legion builder and you've got a Mephitor figure, that extra like shadow Goblin looking head, that dark Goblin head, all you have to do, I didn't paint the neck on this yet. All you have to do is pop that neck off, paint that neck black. Super easy, right? Just straight black color. And you can mess around with this. What I did here was I actually used some shoulder armor and a waist piece from some other figures just to show the colors all work together. The shoulder armor is from a Skeleton Legion builder. The waist armor is from a Bronze Dwarf. Obviously, the base body is a Goblin Legion builder. Throw that shadow head on there. Super easy figure right there. Shadow Goblin. Very cool. A dwarf orc has to be a dork. Works for me. A dwark. Okay. Yeah, the dwarf, the goblin ears, I swear I've pulled them off so much easier in the past, but because I'm doing a live show, Murphy's Law. Okay, so I got a couple other things I want to show here. Let me bring this up here, see what other, because a lot of what I'm showing are some simple customs, some simple builds, right? And that was my intention. I wanted to show some easy builds that you can do. Okay, so I've got a couple more to show. More complex ones, I guess. Super easy builds. Just by putting these down and playing with them, I think you will find a ton of cool combinations. So to recap, throwing skeleton limbs on almost anything, make it a skeleton. Orcs, make it an orc. Same thing right there. Make it a barbarian or, you know, a brute type character, or you can armor it up, right? Because that's the other thing. If you take a Templar Knight and you pull off the upper arms and the upper legs and you put skeleton pieces on there, what you're going to be left with are the armored arms from the Templar and all of the dark colored armor pieces that were on the skeleton. Now, what's really cool is you just got yourself a skeleton, a skeleton Templar. That mix and match of the lighter armored Templar pieces and the darker armored skeleton pieces allow you to actually put together a really cool set of armor. Ironically, I have one over here. That's part of what I did here I did this figure, which was my kind of tribute to Firefly. This is one of my G.I. Joe Mythic Legions tributes, and it's literally a combination of Templar and Skeleton Legion builder parts with just a bunch of extra paint applications. But that combination, if you know Firefly from G.I. Joe, he's got that urban camo. It kind of makes almost like an urban camo type pattern when you do that. I shouldn't say pattern, but colors, those two different colors. So that's something you can do as well. And you're going to discover this by just mixing and matching these parts. A lot of fun. But you can take it a step further. So if you want to, do a little bit of customizing, I have a few options for you here. One of the ones I wanted to do, because I didn't just want to show simple pop and swap customs, I want to show something that brings in, a couple other ideas as well. So I was looking at some different pieces, and quite frankly, what I did was, I just had that head, this bronze dwarf head. I was looking at this and I didn't know how to use it. And I said, I want to find a use for this. And I slapped it on a skeleton body. And I said, how can I use this? What can I do here? And I was thinking, where have we seen this head on a figure other than a dwarf? And I thought about the Silverhorn Sentry. So if you know this character, not one of the more popular characters in the line, but a gorgeous figure. I think an underrated figure. The Silverhorn Sentry was a figure that came out in the Covenant of Shadow Wave. So it's an older figure. It was originally called the Forest Knight. That's how it was presented. But eventually we found out that it was called the Silverhorn Sentry. And the Silverhorn Sentry, these are characters that guard Castle Silverhorn, which is where Artemis Silvercord has her seat of power, right? So I looked at this and I said, what if I made a dark version of the Silverhorn Sentry? And I had done this before, okay? I had done a dark version of Faunus, who's also a member of Castle Silverhorn. So I said, you know what? I'm going to pop this head on a skeleton body, and I'm going to make a dark version of the Silverhorn Sentry. I called it the Gloomhorn. I had to think about this. I call it the Gloomhorn Sentry. Now, besides just popping and swapping, I did want to add a little bit of paint apps, and I did want to bring in some other parts. Recently, I saw a bunch of people using parts from some McFarlane figures, and I used to buy McFarlane figures years ago, but I haven't bought them in years. And I know a lot of people have been saying they have some great figures for fodder purposes. So recently, there was one that went on sale that was like an evil Shazam or something. I don't read DC, bear with me. I have no idea what the hell this character is. But it was like an evil Shazam, and it was being sold for like $5, which was an absolute steal. Of course, I didn't buy it when it was $5. I only bought it now when I realized I had a use for it. So I paid like $15 for it, but still super, super worth it. So I combine those pieces, and you know what? Let me shop and just show you, right? This is my Gloomhorn Sentry. So if you know the Silverhorn Sentry, I took a lot of the design cues from that figure. The Silverhorn Sentry has an armored chest. He's got a loin, like a cloth loin piece. He's got, you know, that head with the antlers. He carries the sword, the spear, and that wooden shield. So I wanted to use all of those elements, but I wanted that loin piece to look tattered and worn. I could have just torn it up the way that I did for the Templars I showed earlier, but I wanted to do something a little bit more for it. So when I thought about that particular DC figure, I said, oh, that one has a really cool, almost like torn leather strips type look. I'm going to use that. And it also had a really cool cape that has these like feathers on the shoulder. So I said, that's going to look really, really cool. That's what I'm going to do. So let me zoom in a little bit here. So you can see what I did is I took that skeleton Legion Builder body, that bronze dwarf Legion Builder head. I just added some simple paint applications. This is one of the easiest things that you can do when you get started customizing, is literally if you have a regular figure that's got full paint apps and you have a Legion Builder figure, compare them. Look at them together and you will see the different pieces, the different design highlights that are painted on those fully painted versions. Paint them. Get a Legion Builder and paint them. That's all I did here. Painting those pieces on the chest, painting those elements in the head. I did them with a metallic silvery type color or a tin type color because I wanted it to be shiny, exactly like the Silverhorn Sentry is. The only other thing I really did here was give him some hooves. I believe those are from a Belphegor figure. Either that or a Borrier. They were in my fodder bin, so you'll bear with me. You can also see what he looks like in the back. I love the way that cape looks. But this is a super easy custom. It's a cool custom. I really, really dig this. And I do have a few other pictures of it. Let me bring up the other pictures. Share screen. So here's a couple other pictures of the Gloomhorn Sentry. I really dig this. This is a figure that's going to remain in my display. I like the way it looks, and it's super easy to do. So all I did, combine skeleton Legion Builder body with that dwarf Legion Builder head. The antlers are from a barbarian kit. I mean, realistically, I could have used the bronze dwarf ones and maybe just painted them so they weren't gold, but I had the barbarian ones. Might as well make use of another figure. That shield is not from one of the reinforcements. That was in my fodder bin. The sword actually is from one of the reinforcements. I believe that was also with the Orc Legion Builder. And then those pieces from that evil Shazam. Someone said Black Adam. It's not Black Adam. It's like an infected Shazam or something like that. Super, super easy. Minimal amounts of paint, few extra pieces, but creates a really unique looking character. So these are some of the things that I recently had someone tell me that they like the fact that I do these LBCs. They like that I do Lazy Boy customs. They like that I do these customs that people can easily recreate or aspire to and even improve upon. That's awesome when people do that. So this is one of those that I would suggest, but I really do dig this. Someone says it's a Joker toxin Shazam. Okay, let's see. Okay, so yeah, people correcting me, telling me that's what it is. Say I'm copying this. Awesome, please do. That's why I show it. Love the Silverhorn Sentry. I bought several. Yeah, it's a great figure. I love the color armor, and I dig, like I said, I dig the fact that some of the Fae type characters are some of my favorites. I think that you can do a lot of really creative stuff. So that's how I imagined this character. Let's see. Made me wonder about a dark skeleton custom, maybe with Sir Owain's armor, jet black bones, jet black skull. Yeah, that sounds awesome. The Sir Owain armor is really cool because it's silver, but it's got those black accents in it as well. I like that. Maybe a Brother Mando skull. Yeah, that would be cool. Armored Woodland Wizard. Yeah, awesome. So I'll bring that up. The last one I'm going to look at here, and then I'm running a little bit. I got through these a little bit quicker than I thought I was going to today. And I did do a couple others here. I mean, because again, you end up with just a bunch of random parts. So literally this was me just like, okay, well, I've got the barbarian body and legs. I use the arms on that dwarf custom. Let me throw some arms here. Those arms are from, the upper arms are from the orc. The lower arms are from the barbarian. I just combine that there. I mean, doing stuff like that, it always looks cool. Barbarian Ravager type custom. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do with that. I can see those bones being painted to resemble wood. Yep, that would work as well. I've done that where I had painted bones to resemble wood when I did some twig blights. So I actually used the very old customs. I used some of the pumpkin heads that Zombie 13 had done, and I created some twig blights doing that by painting the arms to look wooden. So the last one I'm going to show is another one I did with a Templar, and this is a fun custom that I'm excited to show because I was trying for something very, very specific here. So again, if you watched the show the other night on Legions Lounge, you saw Stephen and Emil talk about one of their new God's Fire characters called the Crucible Knight. I got sent one of these heads recently, and I saw Stephen had done a great paint job where it has like a cross in the mask, and he painted it with like a lot of green tones. It looked very Spawn-like. They actually mentioned that on the Legions Lounge show, that it looked very Spawn-like. So I wanted to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to use green paints. I wanted, because it's got a cross on the face, I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to put this on the Templar, and I'm going to paint the cross mask red. I'm going to do that reddish. And as I started working on this custom, I started getting inspired actually by Emil. I was looking at some of the customs Emil's done, and I realized that a lot of, when he does Templars, he definitely dirties them up. I didn't dirty mine up, but I used a lot of belts and fur. Those are things that I've seen Emil do. Like if you look at it, the way that he painted the Fallen, the way that he put that together, lots of leather belts, lots of fur going on, dirtied them up, used a lot of Nuln Oil and stuff. So I want to take some of that. I want to take some of that inspiration to create this type of character. Let me show you what I did. Now, this is a Templar Knight torso and loin. I used, remember I said I wanted to use the Sir Girard upper arms and upper legs because they have that red piece there. Started with that, and then I just started messing around, adding other pieces, trying to get something that would look like an Emil custom. By the way, I have shown this to Emil, and he said he loved it. So either I did a really good job of emulating his style, or he's just such a super nice guy, and he wanted to make me feel good. This is the character I call the Crucible Knight, and I imagined him as a kind of paladin. Now, this may look like a slightly complex custom. It is not. Outside of the paints on the helmet, this is super easy. Once again, this is a Templar Knight tunic and loin piece and shield. It is the armor from a Sir Girard, so that would be the arms and legs and the waist armor and the shoulder armor. The neck piece is actually from the Templar, and then I painted that head custom. Now, the belts, super, super easy. One belt across each, shoulder to create that crossed type look in the middle. One belt around his waist. And I'll show the back piece in a minute. I did put a sword in the back there. I grabbed a red piece of cloth that I had, and I made that kind of like red skirt-like look. And then I just got some extra craft fur that I had. All I did was tuck that craft fur up under the shoulder. Super, super easy to do. I'll zoom in on this a little bit so you can see a little bit better shot of the Crucible. One of the things I like about this character too, the way it's sculpted, there's this area on the back of the head that looked almost like cloth. So I painted it white. So it looked like it was almost an extension of, the rest of the tunic, almost like, a hood piece was coming up or something. I thought that was a nice little addition, but super, super easy to do. I gave him a hammer because I like the idea of a paladin having this like holy hammer. Let me show you a couple other photos here so you can see some of the other shots of him, some of the back pieces. So a few more shots here. So what you can see here is what I did was I got one of those, that sword kind of sheath that it's in. That was a piece from Gridiron Studios that we sell at Legion Shop. It actually comes with swords, but it fits a Mythic Legion sword. So I just popped one of those swords in there because, again, Emil likes all those belts and all those buckles and stuff. I didn't have a lot of the custom belts. I know a lot of people are using, all those custom belt kits and everything. I didn't have one of those handy, so this was my way to kind of recreate that. But you can see that lower skirt piece as well. A couple other pieces here. Again, another close-up you can see of that head. It is a great head. They did a wonderful job. Emil does a great job with all those little kind of like filigrees and everything. So this is one they showed off the other night, but here's a couple other photos of it, a few different examples. Holy Hammer was the name of my Christian rock band in high school. Pretty cool. I should do that, I guess, right? Rich saying, going to need a couple of those helmets. Yeah, that helmet is actually available, going to be available, I should say, in the Wolf King Custom sale that comes up this Saturday. So if you dig the Crucible and you want some of those, buy them, and make sure that you reach out to Stephen and Emil and say that you saw it with Jeremy and that's why you're buying it, so I can rub it in their face. I have them right here. Let me bring this off for a minute. So I will tell you that when I started this project, I got these figures in last week. I really didn't get into this project until the weekend, and I didn't plan any of these out. Like, I wasn't like, in advance, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do this custom and this custom and this custom. Literally, the only one I kind of had an inkling I was going to do was the Dwarf one, because I've seen people do a Barbarian kit and a Dwarf before, and I think it works well. So I'm like, well, that's one I'm going to show because it's easy to do and it's very effective. But all of these others, I had no intention of doing. I actually put together the Black Templar before I even remembered seeing Bill from Dorklayer do it. That was already one that I was popping and swapping. So these were things that I had in mind already lightly, but really all of this came together this weekend when I was putting them together. Out of that, I intended that I was going to put a bunch of stuff together, show it off on the show, and then break it all back down and use the parts for customs I actually wanted to do. Interestingly, this Templar with the Sir Girard armor is going right in the case because I think it looks awesome. Black Templar going right in the case because he looks awesome. Not only is he going in the case, I'm probably going to make some others of him as well. Love that. The Crucible, this was one that I did just to show, a custom paint, a custom head and stuff on it. This is being kept in the collection as well. And I do have him here. The Gloomhorn Sentry, this is being kept as well. So of this little project, 4 of these figures are going to remain in my collection on display. That's pretty cool. I got to tell you, some of my favorite customs that I've done have been things that I've done for the show. Things that I've painted live on the air just to kind of show an example of doing something that I end up really, really digging and pushing it a little bit further. That's one of my favorite parts of doing this, is being able to share the creativity really helps get it out of me. I mean, if you've ever heard anyone talk about the best way to learn something is to teach it. Because when you teach something, there's a wonderful person out there named Jim Quick. I don't even know what to call him. He's a brain expert, right? So he's all about like memory and thought process and stuff like that. His name is Jim Quick. But he says something, one of his lessons is when you teach somebody something, you get to learn it twice, because you get to learn it yourself. And then when you teach it to somebody, you almost like relearn it. Me showing you these things, me having these conversations actually brings out the creativity in me and allows me to create things that I might not have created on my own. So one of the reasons I love doing this. Thank you all for that creative energy. Those are the customs that I had in mind to show tonight. Quite a few options with largely just one set of reinforcements. I did open more than one set, but almost everything I showed tonight used one set of reinforcements. I think the Crucible is the only one that I really had to open a second set of pieces for. Everything else is one set. So even if you just got one set of these figures, you have so many options in front of you. With that, I am going to take a quick drink. And then we're going to go to the questions. So let's talk. Is there something, do you have a question that you have about these? Do you want me to pop something together or whatever? I've got 20 more minutes or so. Let's talk. Tell me what you want to talk about. I'm going to go back and look at comments though. No, Pablo, the head, if you're asking about the Crucible head here, that is going to be available at wolfkingcustoms.com. My apologies. I do know it gets a little bit confusing because I do, my parts and a lot of the stuff get offered at either Legion Shop or Wolf King. So sometimes it is a little confusing. But the stuff I'm talking about tonight, that is a Wolf King Customs product. Curtis, I had a blast playing. It was a lot of fun. I was on the floor right here for literally a couple hours just opening this stuff and going through everything. Gloomhorn Sentry is so dope. Thank you so much. Your Dark Templar could be the guard of a Templar Wizard if you make one from the Poxus wave. Templar Wizard, I like that idea. I can do that. Star saying, let me read this. I might try to clip the pauldron pegs and attach it to a belt so that the belt angled across the chest holds the shoulder armor as on in real life. Might allow the armor to move more natural. Possibly. I've always just thought it's fine putting the belts, like kind of positioning them so they're kind of perfectly under where the armor pieces are. I think that looks pretty cool. I'm working on my Barbarian tonight. Awesome, happy pursuits. Happy to inspire. Otaku Zero says, I never play with my figures as much as I do when I'm watching your show. Makes me love them all over again. Thank you. Well, you are very, very welcome. That is the name of the game, taking these out and having some fun with them. Thank you for the inspiration. I have some plans for my Dark Templar now. Awesome. Today's show is awesome, Jeremy. Loving it. Thank you for being new to Mythic. This helps a lot. Thank you and welcome to the Mythic community. Thanks for joining me. Great show. Thanks for explaining the parts you used. Glad I didn't stay muted the whole time. That would have been awesome, right? How does the bearded barbarian head look on the orc? One moment. So I need to put the orc back together. because I popped him apart for demonstration purposes, but ain't nothing but a thing. Put all these pieces back together. I did pop off his hand by accident there, so pop that back on. Okay, so to put it on the orc, first off, I am going to have to pull off the neck armor because the beard won't hang down properly if the neck armor is there. I'd probably paint the beard, but that's how it looks. So if you put it on the orc, and if you want to see it with shoulder armor on as well, if you think that's how it would look cool. There you go. One other thing you can do is if you do make, a skeleton type character, you could use this on the skeleton if you want to create like an undead Viking, something like the Ilgar figure. That would work as well. So there you go. There's your answer. Barbarian head on the orc. Joe Vassapolo, absolutely. Great combination, Lord Dragool and Sir Girard. So the Lord Dragool figure, it's got that black and red armor. That's going to match really, really well with the Sir Girard parts. Lord Dragool also has the dragon, the red dragon head topper. That would look really cool on the black Templar as well. Going to steal that crisscross belt idea from my Barbarian Legion builder. I actually did a whole short tutorial video on different ways to use belts, which was really funny because I started off and I'm like, yes, I'm literally going to do a video on how to use belts. And I show a whole bunch of ways that you can use that incredibly ubiquitous Mythic Legions part. So check that out. If you liked what I showed there, I show that as well. But yeah, using multiple belts is a really cool way to get some different looks. When do I think there'll be another reinforcements sale like the one we just did? There's nothing planned right now, so I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. There will be some reinforcements at some of the live shows, ZoloCon, ToyCon, New Jersey, but a big, online sale like we just had, no time soon. Those are all in discussions now. You should use the Krampus for scarf part on a barbarian. Yeah. It just looks like a big fur type piece there. Reinforcements art. Will it be available on Legion Shop anytime soon? I don't know. I'll have to ask Nate about that if he wants to make prints of that. Is the Ninja Fox head with the teeth going to be at the Wolf King sale? Yes, Rich, it is. For the Predator pre-orders this week on Wolf King, do you know how long that will go on for? And did they say when they hope to print and ship the orders? Pablo, it'll be a 1-week sale. So it goes from Saturday at 3 to approximately the following Saturday at 3. It is a pre-order. So all of the Wolf King pre-orders take 4 to 6 weeks after the end of the sale. So the sale runs 1 whole week. If you buy it day 1, it'll be 5 to 7 weeks after that. Len is usually pretty good about shipping early, but that's the time, that's the window that they use. If you buy painted parts, it'll probably take a little bit. It'll probably be towards the end of that window because the painted parts have to go to the painters have to paint them and all that type of stuff, as you'd imagine. If you buy just unpainted parts, you might get it a little bit quicker, but that's the guidelines that they will tell you. Let's see. I love finding fodder and don't take enough pictures of the figures I've altered and customized. Yeah, I used to be better with that. Like, that's one of the reasons I really like the Gloomhorn, because it uses fodder parts that I've never used before. I'm actually on the lookout now for more pieces like that. I had such a good experience with McFarlane. Maybe I'll look at a lot of McFarlane stuff. But I got so much use out of Lord of the Rings figures over the years. And I know people joke around, oh, Jeremy's using another Lord of the Rings figure. Some things I've realized recently is Lord of the Rings figures are not as cheap as they were when I started promoting this. And I'm not taking credit for that. I'm not saying I drove up the price of them, but holy crap, I used to be able to buy a lot of Lord of the Rings figures and pay on average like $2 a figure. If I bought a really big lot, I'm talking. These days, I'm seeing what I used to pay for a lot of 100, 200 figures. I'm seeing that same price for a lot of like 30 figures. So they're much pricier than they used to be. And personally, I've used the parts so many times they don't feel as new and fresh to me anymore. I see other figures in my collection that have them, so I love finding new fodder parts. That is something I need to look more at. When I go to ZoloCon, that's what I'll be on the lookout for. Paint that beard black and you have a deal. I agree. It's gray highlights. Never ordered third-party ports. They're resin, correct? How durable are they? They vary in durability. So it depends what you're getting. If you have pieces that have very thin parts, they're going to be fragile. If you are getting third-party parts, if you're getting the resin parts, they're not like the factory-produced pieces that have a lot of flexibility. They are resin parts. They are harder. They can be brittle, especially if you buy something that's got little teeth or little horns. I mean, if that falls off a shelf, it is going to break. So other pieces that are a little more solid aren't as fragile. If they fall from a shelf, they might still break. You do definitely have to be careful with those type of pieces. Jeremy, are there any Cosmic Legions figure you look forward to mythifying? Well, keep in mind that I did my Cosmic Customs project already, so I've already kind of played around with that. I love the idea. I like that whole like burned earth type aesthetic. Like a lot of the stuff, like maybe a planet like Tatooine, where it's a mix of like technology and kind of like the brutal way that this world has lived forever. Tusken Raiders. I love the fact that Tusken Raiders have rifles and stuff like that and are rebreather, but they also use those like gaffy stick weapons. So things like that I think are cool. So combining the obviously mechanical aspects of Cosmic Legions with more organic type pieces from Mythic, I think is going to be a lot of fun. Realistically, I'm just looking forward to getting them, messing around with those pieces. Obviously, Thygar, bringing that into the Mythic realm like Nikki and Joe did. Well, actually, Nikki brought it more into the Mythic realm. Joe kind of did one that I think worked really well in the Cosmic realm. But yeah, I'm looking forward to all of them. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. The ones I'm the most excited for are the Sphexians. I think the Sphexians are going to be the big sleepers of that wave. I think that those are going to blow people away. When I was looking at the photos of the fine cuts, they look even cooler. Like seeing we didn't show these pictures today, but seeing the fully assembled Sphexians with no paint, you can get an appreciation for the sculptures themselves. Even those heads we showed today, those Sphexian heads, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous sculptures. Cannot wait to get those. I changed all the orc armor out with the Black Knight armor. Yeah, that'll look cool. I mean, the Black Knight, literally, that black armor on anything is going to look pretty darn cool. Okay. I saw the belt video a couple times. Let's see. Going to do a lot of LBCs. That's what it's all about. Saturday is about one thing, gnomes. Yep, Curtis, you're going to be happy. So the Tinker Gnome that I showed previously, the Tinker Gnome will be available. Len also did a really cool, when I showed my Tinker Gnome, I actually showed him with a big giant wrench, right? That wrench was from an old toy line called Zivaz, but Len was like, dude, that looks so cool. We need one of those in the sale. So he actually got one sculpted. So there's going to be a big giant gnome wrench that looks super, super cool. So the Tinker Goblin, the Tinker Gnome, the big giant wrench, and there's also a halfling that can be used as a young gnome or as a halfling. It's got some halfling feet. I haven't shown that yet. I actually just saw the painted pieces from Drew Grubbs. He's going to be painting those. They're on the way to me now, so I should have them in the next day or so. I will put together, I already got the body ready to go. I'll put together that halfling, so I will be posting that hopefully before the sale on Saturday, so you can see what that build looks like. But that is one that I think people are going to love. Okay. Can't wait to get my reinforcements and try some LBCs. Thanks for the ideas. You're welcome. Use figure stands for resin customs. Yep, that's never a bad idea, especially the full horseman ones. Those are the most durable stands out there. Star, are there any third-party creators that you know that have any ideas for Cosmic Legion parts? Yeah, I mean, literally, we've been at Wolf King, we've been talking about it. A lot of the mythic parts that we've created are going to work really, really well. You know, I created one a while back that was, I call it the Crawdaddy head, but it's like a crayfish-looking type head. That looks super creepy and alien. That will work really, really well. The Mind Flayer type heads, those are going to look like aliens. Those will work really well. Even my critters, right? I'm super excited because I put critter heads on goblins and elf bodies. I've made all of these mythic critters. I want to bring all my critters to space, right? I need foxes in space and rabbits in space and turtles in space. Literally, I'm going to cosmicify all the critters. So yes, there are lots of third-party parts that exist that will work for Cosmic, but once Cosmic actually ships, I'm sure that you're going to see the floodgates open on those new ideas. Eric, no hooded gnome yet. I mean, that could be in the future. That's not one of the ones that we did. The gnomes that we've done so far, there's the Tinker and the Halfling that will be at Wolf King Customs. And then down the road, there's going to be the Garden Gnome is going to be at Legion Shop. It's awesome. Orcs in space. Yeah, turtles in space, going to be awesome. Are the mandibles on the Sphexians posable? I do not believe so. In the photos today, Star, they were just out because they're separate. They're tooled as separate pieces, but they'll probably be glued in there. They're not going to be something that's articulated. Going to have those parts at Zolo. Yeah, all of those parts should be at ZoloCon. The gnome parts, the Crucible Knight, God's Fire, all that stuff should be actually at ZoloCon. Additionally, if you watched Legion's Lounge, the first pieces in Steven's new series, Tribal Lands, those will be at ZoloCon because Steven's going to be at ZoloCon. So I'll do a little plug for that now. March 5th and 6th in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure where in Pennsylvania. It's at apparently a really cool place called the Fuge. It's like a big old centrifuge, I guess. It's a show that people love. I've heard about it for years. I've never made the trip to go down there. The studio's done it for a number of years in a row. It's going to be an absolute blast. In addition to Four Horsemen Studios being there, I will be at their table working with them at that show. There's going to be a lot of cool Mythic Legions product for sale over the weekend. Additionally, Wolf King Customs will have a table at that show. They will be there selling a whole bunch of stuff. They're going to have a lot of guests. Anthony Hausiel from the Toy Forge is going to be there. Stephen Bishotti is flying in. So Lord Stephen is going to be there as well. Again, I won't be at the Wolf King table the whole time, but I will certainly be there meeting and greeting everybody. Walter Hagen is flying in from California, so Walter will be around as well. So it's not going to be anywhere near the scale of Legions Con, but if you are excited to come out and hang out with us at a bit of a smaller scale, we're thrilled to have you there. It is going to be a blast. That's early March. And then, of course, at the end of March, I believe 26th and 27th is ToyCon New Jersey, the first ToyCon of the year. I'll be there for that as well. Super excited for that. Yeah, Joe mentioning ZoloCon is an awesome show. That's what I've heard. I've heard it's really, really fun, really, really cool. A lot of stuff to see in a really interesting venue. So I'm actually super excited to go for my first time. With that, it is 9 o'clock. So if you don't have any more questions for me, I'm going to let you go for the evening. I don't know what that $ means, Eli. If you're asking how much it costs to get into Zolocon, I honestly don't know. Zolocon.com is where you'd want to find that information. Next week, I will be back here. I will have a very, very special guest. I'm not going to tell you who just yet because I want it to be a little bit of a surprise. But next week, we've got some huge news, or news I'm very, very excited to share with everybody. So join me next week. We're going to have a great conversation, a great guest, and some news that I'm excited to reveal to everyone in the Mythic Legions community. Until next time, same Mythic time, same Mythic channel. I literally cannot wait to see what you make when you get your reinforcements. Hopefully, this show inspired you to do some pop and swap, some easy kit bash, some customs, whatever it is. I genuinely look forward to seeing it. Good night, everyone. I'll see you next week.